Hey viewers and friends, Andrew back again, and welcome to my final video for 2012. I wasn't going to do another one until the new year, but I decided to do a bit of a recap of the year in terms of movies I've watched and just my overall collecting in general. Now, this has been a fantastic year in terms of movie releases, Blu-ray releases, especially in terms of a lot of back catalogue stuff, which I'm going to mention first. And it's also been a fantastic year in terms of bargains. Blu-rays have really significantly dropped in price this year. There's been some fantastic bargains, some fantastic deals, so also going to mention them. Then I'm going to mention some of the standout films that I have watched throughout the year. So as I mentioned, there's been some fantastic releases, and one prime example of that is the Jaws Blu-ray Digibook. This is the Australian Digibook. This is a classic movie, I love it, and in terms of a transfer for an older film, you are honestly not going to get much better than this. They did an absolutely phenomenal job with this one. Then we have E.T., which was actually my most anticipated Blu-ray release of the year, and like Jaws, this is the Australian Digibook. This one did not disappoint. The transfer was fantastic, and this is such a great movie, one of my favourite films of all time actually, my second favourite movie to be precise, and it got the treatment it deserved. In terms of horror, the year was pretty significant for me. Everyone knows that the Halloween franchise is my favourite horror franchise of all time, and with the Scream Factory release of this bad boy right here, Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, it saw finally the completion of the Halloween series or franchise on the Blu-ray format. Now, this isn't one of my favourite movies from the franchise. I do like it though, but in terms of a Blu-ray release, it certainly is one of the best that the franchise has to offer. Scream Factory did an amazing job with this release. Fantastic cover art for starters, a bunch of special features, and a really solid transfer. Scream Factory are a breath of fresh air in terms of Blu-ray horror releases, and yeah, they've already released some really great films, but next year is shaping up to be phenomenal for the Scream Factory Blu-ray releases, so I cannot wait. But yeah, Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, very significant. There's also been one DVD release this year that's really stood out above all others. It's an older catalogue film, but it is The Deadly Spawn. Now, this has an Arrow DVD release. There's a couple of other releases in America. It's on Blu-ray and also DVD over there, but yeah, 2012 Arrow release, and Arrow did an exceptional job. It was actually my first time viewing this movie this year, and I absolutely loved it. One of my favourite creature features. Now, in terms of bargains, one stood out above all the rest. Now, I have picked up a lot of movies this year. In fact, so many I don't even want to think about how much money I've spent on movies throughout the entire year. Thousands of dollars. But out of every purchase that I've made, every single little movie purchase, one bargain stands out above all others, and it's the Stanley Kubrick Blu-ray box set. It has 7 of his movies. This was brand new for $20. Insane bargain, and easily the best of 2012. Alright, so now we have the phenomenal releases, a great bargain that I've picked up in 2012. But what movies have I been watching throughout the year? Now, as a lot of you know, I'm not too big into modern new release films. I do like some of them, but the main issue that I have with them is I find a lot of them are overhyped, and I'm often disappointed in them. But this year in particular, I really wanted to focus more on my back catalogue stuff, watching a lot of movies I've never seen before, and I really wanted to keep track of what I've been watching. So my goal for this year was pretty much to smash out as many movies as possible. I've done pretty well. All up, I have watched 212 movies this year. So I just wanted to mention some of the standouts. Obviously, I'm not going to talk about all 212 films, that would take forever, but a few standouts. Now, these are not 2012 releases, these are older films that I've seen for the first time this year. However, at the end of the video, I do want to briefly mention some of the movies that I've seen and picked up that came out this year. But first up, this was one of the very early movies that I actually bought this year and checked out. The Expendables, great movie, I loved it. One of my aims in terms of horror for this year was to find a movie that scared me. It's been quite a while since I've been genuinely scared with the horror, but this movie right here, The Last Exorcism, certainly did it for me. Exceptional movie, I love it, and it genuinely scared me, so I was very, very pleased. I went through a bit of a martial art movie kick. It didn't last too long. I'm going to try and get back into it next year though, because I did enjoy the ones that I saw, but the one that really stood out to me was this one here, Ninja Assassin. I loved it. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. Really brutal, great action, great violence, and a pretty good story as well. Alright, the rest of the horrors. So I've had a really good year in terms of horror, especially a lot of the stuff that I'd picked up previously and got around to watching for the first time. So the standouts are as follows. The Collector. This was great, one of my all-time favourite modern horror movies. Great traps, really brutal. Loved it. The sequel actually got released this year, so looking forward to checking that one out. I'm really wanting to build up my zombie collection, and this movie certainly sparked more of an interest to do that, and that's Dead Snow, one of my all-time favourite zombie films, and probably my favourite modern zombie movie actually. I loved it a lot. The next three movies that I'm going to mention have definitely opened my eyes in terms of the more sort of extreme side of horror and foreign horror. And it's these three French movies, part of the Fab Four. We have Inside, Martyrs, and then Frontiers. Now, I've talked about these movies in videos before, so I'm not going to go into too much depth, but these are all phenomenal films, especially Inside, which is easily my favourite. But I had to mention these in this video because they were a pretty important part of my horror viewing for this year. Probably my biggest surprise in terms of a modern horror, Tucker and Dale vs. Evil. This one actually came out last year, but I picked it up this year, viewed it for the first time obviously. Frigging loved it. I was surprised how much I loved it. I'm not normally big into horror comedies, very hit and miss for me. This one nailed it. You know I'm a slasher fan, and this is pretty much a love letter to slasher fans. So yeah, there you go. I can't believe it's taken me so long to check this movie out, but I finally got around to watching The Fog, and wow, this one amazed me so much. You know, I'm a big fan of Carpenter, especially his earlier horror films, and this is right up there with the likes of Halloween and The Thing for me. Great atmosphere, loved it a lot. This was my best blind buy, and it pretty much was a true blind buy, and that's The Clinic. I'd never even heard of this movie until I saw it in store. It was sitting on the shelf. The cover attracted me to it, then I read the synopsis and it sounded pretty good. Got home, found out it was an Australian movie. I was even more excited to check it out, and I loved it. Fantastic modern Australian horror, I highly recommend it. And yeah, easily the best blind buy of the year. Alright, now gotta mention some slashers, mostly 80s stuff, but there's a couple of modern slashers thrown in as well. So this is a real obscure slasher, and I'm really glad that I took the chance on this one. It's Evil Laugh. Now, I loved this movie, it was great, but it also had another pretty significant part. and that was, a lot of people checked out the review on this, and a lot of people decided to check this movie out upon seeing my review, which is awesome. I always love that. And everyone seemed to like it, that gave it a go upon my recommendation. So this was an awesome movie. Loved it. So if you've never seen Evil Laugh before, I highly recommend it. It's really cheesy, but it's so much fun. Stage fright. This was one of the very last really popular, well-known 80s slasher films that I needed to pick up and check out, and it did not disappoint. I loved it. The Arrow release of Slaughter High. First time viewing this film this year actually, and I loved it. Definitely one of my all-time favourite slashers now, and it's got an amazing theme song. Maniac. And my favourite 80s slasher movie that I've seen this year goes to Killer Party. Phenomenal movie and one hell of a twist ending. Highly recommend this one. It's amazing. And a couple of modern slashers. The Asian film Dream Home. The story was a bit sort of hit and miss in terms of the way it played out, but the kills were the most realistic and brutal that I have ever seen in a slasher movie. Absolutely breathtaking, the kills in this. So yeah, Dream Home. And then last for the movies, we have The Orphan Killer. This got sent to me in a trade from Luke, and one of the best items that I've received via a trade since being on YouTube. I love this movie a lot. I highly recommend it, especially to gorehounds. So they're all the movies that I've viewed. Well, not all of them obviously, but they're the standout movies for this year that I wanted to talk about. Now we're going to talk about some official 2012 releases. Not too many here because I didn't really watch too many movies that came out this year, but two that I've bought but haven't checked out yet is The Woman in Black and Prometheus. I will be checking both of these movies out very soon. My biggest disappointment of the year, in terms of horror at least, is Silent Night. This movie was terrible. I hated it. This year has been really weak for horror in my opinion. I mean, obviously I haven't seen all of the movies that have been released, but this one disappointed me. I also saw Cabin in the Woods, which was terrible. I really didn't enjoy that one at all. And then I haven't checked out The Woman in Black yet. So, yeah. Then we have Tintin. Now, I'm not normally big into my animated movies, but I enjoyed the cartoon as a kid, and I really enjoyed this movie. It really just showed how amazing the Blu-ray format is. This was my most anticipated movie of 2012, and it did not disappoint. I loved the book and I loved the movie, The Hunger Games. Saw it in cinema. Then we have The Expendables 2. I'm not going to spend too much time on it. It's going to be in a future update. Checked it out over the weekend and thought it was really, really good. And last, and certainly not least, easily the best movie of 2012 goes to The Sleeper. This is an amazing throwback slasher. I highly, highly recommend it. Yeah, if you've never checked this one out before, I recommend it. You need to check this movie out. It's friggin' amazing. And easily my favourite movie of 2012. Alright, so that has been this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. And I just want to wish everyone a safe and happy new year. All the best to everyone out there for 2013. And yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you all next year.